hi, so let's go round the room. And you're like, well, I'm the fucking degenerate. I mean, sorry, I'm the technical SME on the product, on the project. And you're just like, what the fuck, man? It's brilliant. Hello, apparently it's 9 o'clock, and welcome to Game of Nodes, a weekly podcast on the Cosmos from independent validator teams. And once again, we've got special guest Null with us, all the way from Australia, so expect a bit of lag. Also, again, we can kind of weirdly see. How are you enjoying the standing desk, Null?
I'm sitting down.
You actually sitting down?
How long did that last?
Wait, hold a second. How long is your body?
What? Yeah.
From the mirror behind you, it really does look like you're standing.
It does. Oh, there you go.
Oh, it does. See, the chair is oddly shaped like you're. So, I mean, it kind of looked like.
Look, I'm not gonna lie. This chair is fucking garbage. I hate it. It's terrible. It's my partner's chair, and it's like one of those racing car chairs, and it fucking sucks. So, yeah. It's not great, but I just got her back for having a shitty chair when I made a coffee. Her retainer thing was in a cup, and I accidentally filled it with milk. So,
does it at least have like a PlayStation 1 style steering wheel or something that you can use?
No, it's
can you like SSH using the steering wheel?
It's got patterns in the pleather.
Pleather.
Yeah, it's not leather. I get a sweaty asshole every day. Looking at our viewer count, it looks like everyone has completely given up on us.
This is the final straw in the bear market saga. Well, we started with 0, we're back to 0. It's kind of the shitcoin journey. The Joseph. What's the name of the guy? Joseph. The hero's journey, like the archetypal several types of story that are just told.
Joseph Campbell.
Of course, Schultz knows. Of course, Schultz knows that. That is exactly the kind of fact that I'm just like, yeah, Schultz should know that. Yeah, that checks out. Yeah. So it's like a Joseph Campbell thing. So, but instead of like the hero's journey, it's like the shitcoin's journey. It starts off at 0, goes up really quickly at the beginning, thanks to largely exogenous factors. In our case, probably Prop 16, tail end of the spiciest drama maybe in the Cosmos overall. I don't know. And then it's just been a long, slow slide from there onwards to where we are now. Somebody would say, who was it that posted that chart of, was it Metal, the blockchain?
Yeah.
Where the price chart was just like basically back down to 0, then flat
slide. It's like, I mean, it's really like every Cosmos chain right now for the most part. Like they're all at different rates of decline, but they're all kind of slowly edging out.
Slowly edging towards 0.
Edging out. Now to our, on the other side of that, we have done 0 marketing. We just put a tweet out literally when this started. Well, no reminder.
But so what I was going to say is that chart that was shared, you may recall that there was a funny thing at the end of the chart.
Yeah.
Which is that right at the end of the chart, right on the far left of the price chart, there was a big buy, like a massive whale.
There was a believer in there.
Just some real believer. And I kind of feel like with Game of Nodes, we're still a long way before we reach that whale moment when people start buying back in. So we're going to be here broadcasting throughout this bear market and beyond.
For folks listening on the podcast, I would say that our downloads continue to increase. The number of people that actually download every week continues to go up, and it actually ended a little bit of a trajectory. So even though it don't show up live, more people are tuning in, or at least starting the up. Maybe it's a 3 seconds, like, oh, this shit, and they hang up. But hey, we'll take the viewer count there.
Well, I think there is some evidence that, I mean, certainly with YouTube-based streams and podcasts, that one of the biggest things you need is a large corpus of content before the algorithm starts recommending you. We also have the problem that we say fuck all the time, and so we get delisted and demonetized, and we get kind of hell banned. So it probably makes sense that our YouTube is always going to be a bit of a tough sell, because we get we're always getting shadow banned for my language specifically.
What's interesting about that
Mate.
actually is that I purposefully held off on the explicit tag on a bunch of our episodes, actually 99% of our episodes, and I never tagged the actual podcast as explicit. And then just last week, I was like, why the hell am I doing this? Who gives a shit? Like, we don't want anybody under 18 nobody should be involved in this shit if you're that young anyway. So who cares? And I added it, and then the numbers went up. So
yeah,
maybe,
baby.
Wait, what?
I don't know what. Maybe it wasn't 100% tied, but maybe
it's like, no, there's no profanity. I don't want to listen to that shit. That's not a world I want to live in.
I only filter on explicit.
It's I don't know. My feeling is through. You've traveled across
These
America
cans
now.
don't come with the spice.
You're a man of the world, or at least a man of North America. I feel like, on the whole, it's generalization. My impression of traveling across America is that Americans don't like profanity. They more than other English-speaking countries.
Did I tell you that I had a long conversation with an Amish on the train?
You did, yes.
So I dropped many FNC bombs while I was talking to that Amish, and he did not seem phased at all. He was just interested in what I had to say about fucking nothing.
He probably was just astonished that Australia was in fact a real place.
He may have been scared.
All the way across the ocean.
Like just nod and smile. Just nod.
He
and
was
smile.
Politely backing away. I was like advancing. Hey man, I tell you about this crypto shit.
Could I jump off this train?
I had a weird, like a really short but weird interaction with an Amish person on the train, and I genuinely, it was the first time I ever seen an Amish person in my life, and I was totally stunned by it. This was back when I used to use Twitter as myself back in the real world, long before crypto. And I just tweeted something like, holy fuck, I just had a weird interaction with an Amish person on the train. And an Amish person fucking tweeted me back, being like, fucking, all right, don't be a bigot against Amish people, you fucking prick. We take trains. And I was like, oh, hold on, what?
Like, and you use fucking Twitter.
And you use fucking Twitter. Like I am, given that I've only just met an Amish person for the first time, I am not an expert in the Amish, but I'm pretty certain that Twitter is off the fucking menu, lads. But some Googling revealed that some people consider the mobile phone to be a type of telephone, to be a type of telegraph, which then gets you back in the building and yes, you're fucking sorted.
It's all fucking loopholes, right?
Yeah, desktop PC, no fucking chance. But telephone, which is basically a telegraph, will get you in the door with a mobile phone and you're on Twitter.
Yeah.
Subtweeting me as a racist. And I'm like,
I was talking to this lad for a while, and they play fast and loose with those fucking rules, let me tell you. Like, your man had one of those mobile phones at his like chair, but it had like the dock, like the old candy bar fucking thing with nothing on it, and it's just like text and call, like an old like Motorola fucking thing that you almost need to bag
yeah, but you can still text. That's immediately text, fucking suspect.
I mean, Twitter is just texting to everyone, right?
Well, I mean, the reason it's originally 140 characters is because of the whatever it is, 155 character spare space, isn't it, on the ping from the cell tower?
Okay.
So like SMSs.
Is that true?
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
I don't need a fucking hour explanation.
So your phone calls home. So for those listening, it's something like, you need to fact check this to get the exact details. It's something like your phone was pinging cell towers to find out like where the nearest one is and what network it's on, blah blah blah. In that packet of data, it has a bit of extra space, and that is the spare space is the SMS, and it's something like that. And it's also why, if you're at like a big concert, like a festival or something like that, and you try and text your mates and say, oh, we're at the front by the fucking white guy with the massive dreadlocks. It was a Tool concert, viewers. It was a Tool concert. surprise, surprise, your text ain't going to fucking arrive because there's well, first of all, there's two problems with that concert. Number one is there's 5,000 people trying to tell each other where they are at the Hammersmith Apollo in relation to Adam Jones's sick guitar tones, but also in the average Tool concert of 5,000 people, there are 3,200 white guys with dreadlocks. So that landmark is completely useless to you. But the cell tower, the nearest cell tower is overloaded, so nobody's text gets through.
I used to have dreadlocks and really enjoy Tool. Still do.
What? No, you didn't.
Dude, I would love to see
that. You
that.
did not have dreadlocks.
I can show you a photo in private.
I absolutely, yeah, I need to see it. Like,
I didn't see it. I was having a pretty good day as well, and I was just thinking, my day's gone okay. I'm not sure it could get any better. And now, you know, my cup runneth over, man. I'm looking forward to this already.
I do want to see that.
I won't put it up on here because it will get like proliferated throughout the internet if I do.
Because I'm a scumbag, yes, it will. So that's a good idea. But I will then ask you this, sir. What is the best Tool album?
I like the last one that they did. I don't know the name of it, but it was the good one.
What?
Fear Inoculum?
Fear Inoculum.
Yeah, Fear Inoculum.
That's good.
Yeah. I really like it, yeah.
Me too.
Mine's Lateralis. I think that's or 10,000 Days.
10,000 Days.
I'm one of those guys who listens to like lots of different genres and bands, but never really knows the names of any of the songs or albums.
You're a man who listens to the Like a Version show on Triple J.
And I love that. Hey,
that is your favorite.
So
Noel's favorite genre is Like a Version on Triple J.
I don't know how you can't love that shit, man. I just love like the like just the band's different flavor on all of them. I love it. Do you ever watch any of the ones that I send through, or you just like, oh, it's another Like a Version video? Fuck.
No, you sent me one. It's always at the same time because it's like in the middle of my night, like in the middle of your night or something. So it's like you're up too late, and then I get like this random link of a Like a Version, and then like what I do, I used to just click on it and just watch it, and then now what I do is I jump ahead like 4 minutes after they get in to actually see what the hell's going to go on, because that one that you sent me, which I will put the link in the show notes, I will find that one. That it started weird and it just got off the rails. Like it was really that one with like the naked dudes, not naked, but they're like all greased up, and they're like, I was like, what the fuck are you sending me? It was like 3 a.m. I was like, what are you sending me?
They're doing weights and shit.
Yeah. Link will be in the show notes of this one.
There's another one that I'm sure I sent you. It's Peking Duck doing this cover of, I can't even remember the fucking song, but there's this dude like with all this curly hair. He's like the front man for Peking Duck. Yeah. Like there's this other chick. I'm pretty sure she's not even like normally in the band, right? And she's doing the singing, doing a really good job. But this other dude is on the guitar, and he's like taller than everyone else. He's got this fucking mane of hair coming off him, right?
Yeah.
And then like he's just so fucking extra. He is just, whenever I'm like having a shit morning, I put that song on, hype me up. I just watch this guy's energy enter the room, and I'm like, fucking hell. It's pretty epic. You'd remember it if you watched it. You probably fucking.
I'm trying to. I usually that one I was trying to block out, but now that
we'll make sure it's in the show notes for the show. So if you want to check it out at home on your own time, you can see Noel's extra man. One of the I can't remember if it's a Like a Version or if it's just a live session on an Australian radio show, but I love one of my favorite ones. Well, obviously, to be fair, there are some really good Like a Versions, and actually, I'm slagging it off, but I actually also spent some time on that YouTube channel. It's really good. I think it's Like a Version, but I can't remember. I'm obviously a big fan of the Australian progressive rock band Carnival. And one of my favorite moments is they do a stream, like a live session, and then right at the end, as they finish, I think it's the song Eons, it must be Eons actually, off of Asymmetry. Like it's really emotional. It's like about the end of the world. It's about like kind of the end of mankind from like a plague or something like that. And you get right to the end, and the singer Ian Kenny, everybody's like sort of wrapping up, and he steps away from the mic, but the mic is still hot. and he just goes, "I reckon that was the tits." And it just gets picked up by the mic, and that's literally the last thing you hear before the video ends. Is the last thing you see, and you're like, "They're an Australian band. What can you fucking say?" That's fucking that's part of the fucking course in it, lads.
Too funny. Yeah, mute.
So, yeah, what's happening? What's happening in the cosmos? I literally at the moment I'm 9 to 5ing my cosmos experience, which is that I'm doing core one work behind the scenes and checking in with people and stuff. But I have come off Twitter for a little bit because it's just a bit silly. So, other than Bendy basically sending me fucking what Atom Accelerator's doing. It's like, this is what we're doing. That's cool. Talking to earlier today. Well, because there was some, I can't remember who it was. Somebody had got in touch that Juno had funded to do some really specific work around supporting Cosmwasm. I think it was
recently, or is this in the past?
Yeah, I feel like it might have been Subquery actually, because they were on the show, and that does ring a bell. You can tell that I've worked an 8-hour day before coming on this because I am even more scatty than usual. But yeah, it was something like that, and it was just like, what was it like working with them? And I was just like, anybody's asking you for money, they're really nice to you until you give them the money.
And they're a fucking asshole.
Yeah, to be fair, pretty nice afterwards as well, because you've given them the money, but it's just whether or not that's actually useful to you is obviously this is the kind of really lucid consultative advice you'll get from me, by the way, if you do actually ever work with me in professional context. This is the kind of real cutting insight that I can give your business.
Be nice before you get the money and shortly thereafter you get the money. Is that your advice?
Yeah, I mean, and also that's cautionary advice I would give to a company of any size going through a tender or due diligence process.
Definitely being a dick before you get the money is a pretty. Although in validator teams that happens all the time. I love we were just talking about like how like teams are yelling at projects about delegations and like, what the fuck are you doing? Like we're just laughing about that in channel because it's always interesting to have when like maybe some partial delegation comes out or the team's not done or they haven't figured it out. And some of those go out and everybody who's not in that list, just like some people are just like, oh, whatever, like maybe get asked behind the channels or maybe it hasn't happened yet. You have some patience. And some people are like, what the fuck are you doing, man? Like, where's my delegation? Like, what the fuck? And it always makes me laugh to say, well, maybe you should be nice before you get the delegation and then ask later about that.
Well, and the great part about this week was that they even decided to run like an impromptu poll on like who thought the current delegation system was okay. Yeah. And like, that's just really, that's advanced snark is what that is.
That's advanced fucking passive aggressive behavior. That is.
And then actually then Crow's Nest, the bro came out and said, is like, and this validator is running at 0%. It didn't make a fucking difference anyway. Like, what are you worried about delegation for? Like, it's coming at 0%. Like, what the fuck? It's just weird. Like, that was like, why would you? Number one, it's 0%, and you're yelling about lack of foundation delegation. Aye.
Got to get to the top, bro. That's the name of the game. Right get there. To the top.
Get to the top. I want my name on top.
Hey, before we go too far off onto the Cosmos land, I want to talk about some other bullshit. And that is, do you guys know Corey Taylor personally? No, like from the internet. You know who I'm talking about?
No. I have no idea who you're talking about.
The Slipknot guy? The Frey probably knows.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that guy. Yeah. So I thought there was some other Corey Taylor, like some fucking crypto guy that.
No, you're like, oh my God.
It's like, is that the.
Null knows a music man.
Is that one of the guys that implemented Solidity?
So anyway, he does a concert of covers called Hated. It's recorded on YouTube. Watch it as well, man. It's got some fucking good songs in there. That guy's amazing, actually. He's got a fantastic voice.
And he's got a crypto guy name to it too, Corey Taylor.
And he's really not a dick.
Oh, maybe not a crypto guy then.
I've just been listening to shitloads of everything recently. That's just been the fucking surrealness of Jonathan Hicks's lyrics is just where my head is right now. Just
Where your head
absolutely
at?
fucking love it. Well, like there's a great like I was listening to just before I did this, I was just earlier I was finishing off some writing work. Again, one of my many fucking gigs. And I was listening to the lead single off their first album, Mikey's Your Boyfriend. And there's a line in it, something like the whole song is about an argument in a pub between a guy, the protagonist, who is confronting what is implied to be the ambiguously former lover of his girlfriend, right? And there's a line in it something like, "Hey, are you guys together? Oh, I've just seen your torso on the floor. I guess you're separated." His fucking lyrics are just insane. They're amazing. Because the lyrics don't make any sense, right? And then what the thing is about, the song is actually about, is having a mundane fight in a pub, probably in Oldham, because it's based in Greater Manchester. Sorry, Oldham. Maybe Eccles, could be Wangy's Bar in Eccles. Sorry, Wangy's Bar in Eccles. That was
Sorry,
really,
Wangy.
that was like the most hyper specific reference I've ever made. I once saw, so this is another hyper specific reference. If you know who Bez is, I once shot a news article, like as a photographer, shot a news article about Bez running for political office at Wangy's Bar in Eccles, one of the strangest freelance gigs I've ever done in my entire life. Anyway, what becomes obvious is that this is just a bar fight, right? But what actually happens while they've been having a bar fight, they haven't been watching the news, and nuclear war has broken out between presumably Russia and the rest of the world or something. And actually, the pub has just been caved in by a nuclear shockwave, and so the song is about the protagonist coming to the realization that he is about to die because the building is collapsing, but he's sort of laughing to himself about the surrealness of the situation. And that's quite a typical sort of level of an everything song, where it looks like it's a breakup song, and then you read more closely and you're like, there's all these references to the wall disintegrating and the people around him being ripped to pieces in a nuclear fireball. I don't think they're just like angry and fighting each other with pool cues. I think they actually are being ripped apart by a nuclear fireball. Amazing band. Anyway,
drill tweet of the week.
We're going up to the drill tweet of the week.
You missed it on one of the weeks when you were off. No, there was actually a situation where I used a drill tweet in anger, but that was another. Okay, so
I watched when I was off. I was still watching. I was just driving.
Have you? He did a second book, and there was briefly a meme on YouTube where some of the funniest stories from the second drill book, people got the Eminem voice thing. You know, you can feed it lines and it will rap them like Eminem to read out the stories. And there's this amazing one about Drill trying to buy a car, and there's this line in it where it says something like, "The salesman took one look at me and realized that I was a no good piece of shit." Oh, did that say? The salesman took one look at me and decided that I was not to be taken seriously. That's the line.
That's what it is.
Fucking love that. Just like like the story of my fucking life. Like, no matter what I do, I feel like that is perennially my fucking problem.
Classic.
Okay, so the section is Hollywood, and the tweet is, "My regular life and my Ocean's 11 fan fiction life have collided in a horrible fireball." I'm not sure I fully get that one, but I'm sure its wisdom will reveal itself to me over time. Also, there's this, I don't know if you can see, there's a massive fly just flying around right by my head, which is really fucking...
I thought we got rid of that segment.
It's
keeps coming back. Someone keeps mentioning it.
Someone keeps mentioning it.
Just keeps being relevant is the problem. So
so what's happening this week?
A couple of network launches this week, right?
Nolus
launched yesterday.
No, not yet.
Fashionably
They're
late.
still not live yet.
Not live
yet.
Yeah. Wait, Nolus, right?
Yeah, Nolus launched 2 days ago.
Nolus was fun too.
What's it-
That one
what's-
was brutal.
What is it? What is Nolus again?
I believe that's margin lending, kind of like in the vein of Quasar, where
Quasar.
Quasar. Is that what we decided it's called?
That's we as in the rest of the world. Yes, we've all decided that it's Quasar.
Okay. I think it's margin lending.
Margin lending.
Yeah, I think so. Using ICA and stuff.
Okay. Why was it so interesting? Start.
The launch was hilarious because like just a couple of rando validators seem to have an infinite amount of fucking tokens, and so
In Genesis.
yeah. And
Was it a mistake?
no, but like, so I can't remember the validator. They were real pissy because I was like up them, but one of the validators just everyone had one token, right?
Yeah.
And this guy delegated like 1 million tokens to himself.
And left. Nobody else died.
Well, it's just like the whole network was just this one dude, and and then like everyone got up him, and he was like, "I was just testing my bots," and I was like, "What?"
my auto
But that was-
compound dot shell.
The funny thing is that was his defense. He's like, "Oh, we were testing our auto compound bots," and I'm like, "So not only are you
You're like,
delegating 1 million tokens to yourself, you're testing bots with your fucking validator key."
Like, that's not better, dude. Your auto
Good
compound
job.
shell.
Good job. He's like, that was
bullshit.
his defense though. He's like, "Oh, we were testing our bots." I'm like,
Testing my bots.
"You're just fucking kicking yourself in the shin more
did
times."
Did they run an incentivized testnet, or how do they determine like initial delegations and all
Oh,
that?
I think these guys bought tokens. They're one of those.
Oh, they
validators
did.
buy shit.
Yeah.
I won't say who they
It's
were.
like
I don't want to be.
it's like the Figment style when you see a network launch and you see like somebody like Figment just like you
They
never
come in after not spending any time on the network at all in any
Right.
of the tests.
Like they join the Discord like the day of.
yeah, they just go wham, massive delegation. You know, like that meme with the where the guy is just cycling along happily and then he gets a stick and then looks at it and then puts it in the spokes of the bicycle and then is like the next picture is he's on the floor and he's holding his leg going, just like that. Wasn't there another network where like an institutional team came in super late doors and then they were the reason it crashed on start? I feel like that happened not too long ago.
Feels like it happens all the time.
I mean, it feels like it happens all the time, really, doesn't it?
It is pretty funny. What's this fucking the Dora hacks lately have just been rolling up and going like 5 minutes before the network starts, and they're like, "Hi, I'm Dora Hacks. How do I get into mainnet?" They're like, "Come this way."
They must
like
be buying into sets
validate or
too.
something?
They must be buying into sets too, because I think they like they're in Aptos right now, and I think they just got pulled in right with the second preview and all that stuff. So I think.
So hang on, what was that? They just started on Aptos?
I thought that I could be wrong, but I thought Schultz would know this, or maybe Frey would know this, but I thought they were not in the original set, and then they were one of a couple that pulled in after the preview net.
I think that's correct. I seem to remember that.
Yeah. So either they are, and I don't know if that's I don't know the history of that, because if you look at the preview net performance, they were like almost dead last. So it was not a like, oh shit, we got to get you in here type of situation, I think, from a performance side, but I could be wrong.
Are they like a big ETH validator or something?
I don't know.
From another ecosystem?
Yeah,
I would assume so.
They're big in other ecos. They're like big pools.
Solana, maybe? Was that what it was? There's something.
I think they're in ETH.
It's probably ETH too, yeah. So anyway, but I think that's right. I think that's where that's coming from. I think there's a bunch of that kind of core. There's enough that's going on in those home ecosystems, but now you come to Cosmos and you bring 30 grand to a chain and you have a decent delegation on some shit chain. Yeah, right. So
there's been a bit of that recently where I've been going to like physical meetups where they're more like I mean, of course they're like ETH focused because it's like the biggest eco outside of Bitcoin. And it's the biggest eco really because Bitcoin doesn't seem to have like as coherent a community almost as Ethereum. Like Bitcoin is just like the meme, and Ethereum seems to actually have like, in inverted commas, a community, although a lot of the people seem like they're quite like, I work in commercial property and I'm into crypto therefore I hold some ETH and some L2 tokens, right? That kind of is like, and I don't mean that like being a fucking penis. Like I know everybody like does this as a hobby and is like just kind of interested in it and cool. Like we all started just poking around the edges of it or whatever. But that kind of seems like the average person that you kind of talk to at one of those meetups is somebody who has a professional job with a bit of extra income and they bought some L2 tokens around ETH and they maybe hold a couple of Ethereum. There's that kind of the vibe. But the two things that are really surprising about, well, not surprising, nobody has a fucking clue about any other ecosystem apart from Ethereum. Like Cosmos is like who dat, but also just like the mechanics of staking and stuff are really poorly understood, because I guess in Ethereum, like although it is proof of stake now, most people don't really have to interact with that, and like liquid staking is maybe more commonly encountered than like the actual validator mechanics is not, most people don't have much of an exposure to it. So that's really, really interesting. Like, because people, you're like, well, Ethereum's proof of stake too. And people are just like, what's a validator? And you're like,
it's a marketing company that
it's a marketing company that
has to run servers and shit.
So we're just all there was but it's the other funny thing actually is people asking you, well, but how does the validator company make money? And you're like,
it doesn't.
Guesswork. Good timing, good luck. Not good timing, because that would imply some element of skill, I think.
Right time, right place.
Relationships.
Yeah.
Relationships. It's the fucking artifact. It's the artifact approach, isn't it?
Speaking of relationships, check out this fucking awesome thing that I have here.
That looks like some pretty sweet merch.
That is fucking.
Hey,
that is
how come this motherfucker's got swag? I love
that shit.
I love the phrase spending all his hard-earned fucking contractor money on swag. It's
I
great.
know. I'm taking
send me some.
Taking the dollars right out of Jeff Bezos' pockets.
This swag doesn't pay for itself.
Send me a care package of swag all the way to Australia.
It was nice. I got a couple. The phrase sent me a couple items in mail, and then he sent me a very nice note. The note is out with a handwriting analysis firm right now to figure out what the fuck actually it says, since maybe by far the worst handwriting I've ever seen anywhere by anything.
It's a collection of favorite drill tweets.
It is. It literally. It was like you shoved a pen in your asshole and just sat over this thing, just kind of wiggled your ass a little bit. It is
chat ink through.
Both my wife and I, we both looked at it, and then my wife he had this huge bright light on it, and I'm like, all right, here's some keywords that might be in there. see if you can actually use this. It's like, so we kind of Rosetta Stoned it backwards. Like, all right, that's what an S looks like. And then we figured it backwards, and then now we figured out what the note was, and it was very nice.
So you've built your own cipher?
We did, yeah.
It's very important.
I turn it into a font.
Exactly. If you use pen and paper, like habitually to write with in client meetings, if you have a journal that's pen and paper, it's very, very important for it to be essentially an unbreakable code just in of itself.
It was, man. It was. This was like.
Once I was in a meeting at a place I worked, and this is when I abandoned using two colors to make my notes in meetings. It was like some tender thing, like some preliminary thing, and the people that had come in, Microsoft, whoever, some integration company, whatever, they're charging you a load of money for something you don't need. They said something, and apparently, and my boss starts like basically kicking me under the table, and like I look on my laptop, and he sent me like a Slack message or something. It's been like, I can see the fucking red on your pad, and everybody else can. And literally, just like, although my notebook was like right next to me on the table, I had just written like "what" in all caps in red at the bottom of the page, and you could like really apparently all across the table, you could just see it, just like "what," and then like a Metal Gear Solid style exclamation mark.
Oh my god!
And he was just like, "Good one, mate. Just next time, don't fucking use red." And I was like, "Okay, no, the red pen is going in the bin." Like.
That's one of those consulting things too. As you start using that shit, and now the systems are a little bit better because they won't like show notifications when you're displaying and stuff. But I remember in days we used to have like a laptop up or something, and then you get a notification like somebody in the room would say, "This is the most boring presentation I've ever seen," and the little it just come down in the corner like bloop, and everybody would see it with their name on it, and you just be like, "Oh my god." So just miserable.
I saw that the other day at a thing where somebody got like the classic, "Hey, are you free? I've just tried to call you twice." It's just like, yeah, they're in like a really important meeting, man.
Right.
Like, I mean, any meeting that I'm in is obviously going to be pretty fucking important. Let's face it, because no, in
Johnny
answer to the
Smallballs.
care package question, I'm pretty sure you have a Signal message dated some fucking time ago where I said, "What size are you?"
Medium.
I think you're a medium, aren't you?
Yeah. You
You're
sent
a
me a shirt
medium.
before.
Get
Although
small every day.
the Juno shirt was like on the limit of what I can fit over my beer gut. So
Oh, so too small.
yeah, just so maybe whatever that was, just I think it was medium.
That was a
Maybe
medium.
I'm a large now. Maybe UK is a small people. I don't know. I
Mm.
feel
It's-
like this is a medium or small jumper, and it seems to fit all right. So
Well, US medium and large and stuff are different from EU, UK
Right.
large.
And jumper here means like it has footsies on it and shit.
Jumper? What?
sorry, sweater. Me fucking sweater.
Yeah.
Me sweater. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe large. Yeah, especially if it's a hoodie. I like a baggy hoodie.
Okay.
What the fuck were we talking
He's
about
probably
before
like,
this?
I wasn't going to send you a hoodie, you fucking dick.
Well, you just had to ask. You had to ask.
Yeah.
So is that it for chain launches this week? Anything else start? That's it, eh?
Oh,
I think so.
Neutron?
Stuff.
Oh, there's that other. Wasn't there some other weird one that there was? Is it Cosmos Chain, that humans AI thing we were talking about, where quite a few of us had just like weird approach from
Yeah,
them?
they're launching next week.
And that's launching soon, isn't it? That was the one where it was very like, we're going to launch a thing and you should buy in. And you're like, okay, but what is the product you're launching?
Mm-hmm.
And hey, maybe they have a great product.
Uh-huh.
I shouldn't trash talk. I shouldn't trash talk. I'm just scared.
You have to wait till it's released, then you can trash talk it.
You can trash talk it after Genesis.
After mainnet.
That's how
That's right.
That's how it works. Yeah,
That's
yeah.
right. Uh-huh. That's correct.
So yeah, they're actually quite a lot of chain launches actually in the Cosmos now. We're kind of
There's like, yeah, the bottom of the bear market launch strategy.
It's always, I mean, I guess you can't wait, right? I guess you have to. It's kind of like dollar cost averaging. Like if you're starting all this and you need revenue and you have to have some sort of start point. So, but it always surprises me that like and I think I asked you this as well, Noel. I always thought it was a bad time to start, but you said it was a good time to start when it's in the doldrums.
Well, you don't want to be like at the peak of a bear market, of a bull market, because then your token gets dragged down with everything when it inevitably shits the bed. If you start the other way around, you can open with your, you can hit your target market cap that you want, and then you've only really got one way to go.
Yeah.
When things turn around, you might there's no aggressive tanking in a bear market. Like there's not people out there who just like aggressively selling the fuck out everything. They're just like selling rewards for dick. So once the market turns, you want to be like, you want to have runway to have your price go up. You don't want to like immediately shoot yourself in the foot with price go down. So
yeah, and I guess if you can keep a decent token price at launch and you're not just sweating it out, that's a pretty good thing as well, right?
There's like a lot less participants in the in the ecosystem at the moment too, and I think that like people have much lower expectations of what airdrops and shit should look like so you can like dick people on the airdrop a little bit, and you're like, here's your 20 cents.
Well, everybody's bitching about it today with that Neutron thing. Holy shit! There was like, I spent 20 minutes on this. I got 47 cents.
But like the aggressive selling as well is just like,
oh yeah,
if your airdrop is too big, people will just sell the shit out of it into the floor.
Yeah, like I should have with Netta. Son of a bitch.
Ben Davis. The Juno has just been slowly being burned. But I have a theory about Juno that I think that the main drag on Juno is airdrop recipients from ages ago. I think I talked about it last week. But Evmos is probably mainly due to like a turn in sentiment because of that founder selling the fuck out of tokens on.
But it wasn't that
markets,
much,
yeah.
right? It was like $64,000. Like it wasn't
Yeah,
like
but
a
I
ridiculous.
think it's the fear usurper because he's got 34 million tokens.
Right. No, I
So
understand. Yeah. Which is,
he
but I
will-
get, yeah, which
he
is like,
sold 500,000 or something, but I
Right.
think that the fear, or he's trying to sell like 500,000, but the fear is that he's like, well, he's out, so he's going to dump the fuck out of them. So
yeah, it was like 360,000. I think they had like, I think it was like $375,000 worth of tokens in the wallet or something like that. Which I mean, again, nothing to sneeze at, and it's a big number, but
there's also thin liquidity on Osmosis with
for sure.
I mean, the thing about these numbers though is you got to remember that the height of Prop 16, like when that kicks off, the amount of tokens in Takumi's wallet was $120 million. Like,
Yeah, right.
So like sometimes when like I get that we're in a bear market, I get that there's a lot of FUD, I get that people are like, oh shit, man, like somebody's got like a significant portion of the liquidity for a chain is locked up in one account, one founder, whatever. But like I just can't I think my brain has been permanently broken by the combination of app chain winter and then the way that led into Prop 16. I just like, if it's not $50 million, I'm just like, oh, it's not that big a number, is it really?
Well, and everybody, but they were grouping that guy with like we were talking about Jake last week, but with Jake's numbers and that was like in the same sentence. Like it's these two are exactly the same. I'm like, no, they're not.
They are.
These numbers are far away from each other.
An order of magnitude different.
Like literally. Like I know,
like quite literally,
360,000 sounds like a big, but it's not big compared to 6.4. Like we're doing some math here.
Yeah, exactly. But hey, the flip side of this stuff is that like I think that the market is going to turn around at some point because that's like basic fucking economics. It will do. The question is like what opportunities are going to be presented as we come out of that to actually build product that isn't completely shit. Like, let's be real, a lot of stuff now is basically on life support, is basically on hiatus. Like, Howl's on fucking hiatus at the moment because like, everyone's got day jobs, they got stuff to do. Like, you can't work on something for free when you also have a 9 to 5. You can justify putting off friends and family and doing other shit when something is paying a lot harder otherwise, all that kind of stuff. Like, more so for the other guys, I guess, because I have a bit more leeway in my week, but the validator business fucking demands time and all this other stuff, but like I think a lot of projects, especially the ones that are kind of bootstrapped by devs and stuff, are in that kind of same weird space where there's a lot of projects that are kind of potentially viable with users come back to the space. And I say often more users than investors, but the two are so muddled, aren't they? But the question is like, what chains actually like my feeling is that the chains that are going to actually do well in the next bull are going to be the ones that actually have like that kind of like use cases for users rather than money for investors. And like, obviously token value will increase with users and utility. So the two can become conflated, but I think the causal relationship is going to be from utility that ain't just DeFi first. But like it's super weird to still be in this position where like we still have a lot of chains with a liquidity problem. Obviously Bendy and co over at Atom, less of a fucking problem over there, lads, and we are jealous. But like how you can try and position yourself well for when those things do turn around. And that's why like Atom Accelerator is a really good idea, right? Because that's what the goal of that program is, right? Position yourself well for the future. But like it is hard to like, I mean, I guess this is, if you knew how to do this, you would be a business genius and therefore you wouldn't have to ask these questions, right? Is like, how do you position yourself well for the sentiment to change, right?
Yeah. I think it's also
management.
Yeah. Well, the other thing also is like what I'm seeing, at least in some of these chains that are launching, is like there's a lot of overlap that is existing between chains, or better mousetraps type of idea, and when you have 3 or 4 or 5 different platforms that do similar components for liquidity or other types of things, the user count has to multiply at the same rate as the number of platforms, or each of those platforms make a percentage of what they would have if they were the only platform to be able to provide that functionality. And so when you have 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 chains that are launching, they're all providing some sort of structured liquidity pool type of piece that are based on liquid staking or based on X, Y, or Z. If they're all doing kind of the same thing with there's only so many dollars that are flowing in. And so that gets spread across, which means that the revenue is not there for each one of those. And then you have a higher propensity of them collectively failing, right? And so I think we joked about this, like, I don't know, it was a bunch of episodes ago, but like sometimes Cosmos, that's what they want. Like Cosmos would rather have 6 competing ideas all fail than one centralized idea succeed. And I kind of think that sometimes that might play out in some of these types of things, but I don't know. We'll see kind of where it goes.
I think the biggest drag on the Cosmos ecosystem from that, like following on from that, is that like the competition between communities is so fucked that no one wants someone else's shit to succeed, so they just shit on it and try and bring the liquidity to their project. And I think collectively as an ecosystem, it's just fucking everything up.
Yeah.
And the only strong one really is Atom, and it's got nothing. So.
Well, but that's really, I mean, that's because it's early and it has like the dollars are in there, right? But it's not a functionality question there. Raumer said that a good chance a number of the OG app chains fail. Already seeing a number of new gen app chains coming, which fix the issues we face with the OGs. Yeah, but repeat this ad infinitum, right? So if there's always a new chain that does something that's a little bit more than what the existing one is, and people run into it, then what you have is just a rolling wave of chains that kills the one previous. And so I agree with that. It's kind of what I'm trying to say as well, is like when there's this competition or there's a new version of X, Y, or Z. But if that's always there, then there's always a pump and dump, right? Because everybody bails out of the old one, they hop in the new one, it pumps up, you exit out, people lose money, people make money, it dies, you go to the next one, and there's people holding on to the old OG chain because saying that we're,
you're kind of describing the stock market, but just in like a super accelerated way. Because I mean, creative destruction is like the theory behind, company creation and life cycle, albeit semi-discredited as an economic theory, but nevertheless.
Yes, but that is also based on actual company performance, and there's nothing here based on actual company performance.
Well, is the stock market always based on company performance? Quite a lot of
eventually.
Eventually,
it always is. It just depends on the timeline of how much patience there is, right? Which I agree, which is similar to this.
It depends on what phase of your company. Like a lot of new companies, the valuations are like speculative because they're pre-generate. What would you call it? Like pre-revenue.
Pre-revenue. That's pre-revenue.
But like established companies, and especially like OG companies, all their valuations are based on like, actual revenue
old
and
school,
assets,
like regular shit, right?
Yeah,
like GE gets measured based on how many fucking light bulbs and aircraft engines it makes, right? That's literally it.
Like future valuations are done on like the company's
Bezos said that too. Like Jeff came out and actually said that in Amazon a bunch of times, where like they never wanted to turn a profit because they always wanted to lose money, because once you start turning a profit, then you're being measured. And if you're constantly not losing, but like you're constantly investing back in, and you're raising and you're growing, you're still in that mode to take over the earth, and nobody's gonna question that because the future is always out there.
Once you start making profit, you start paying tax too.
Yeah, or you start getting measured on kind of core metrics, which nobody really wants to be measured on, right?
No, you'd rather have like a speculative multiple of 30.
But that only goes for so long, right? Eventually, I think it has to eventually, and for every one of these businesses, that the bell tolls, right? Some of those might take a long time, but Amazon, the bell's tolling, right? Like they still look at it. I mean, if it wasn't for AWS, like that business would be in real trouble.
Look at like Tesla is still like, they're a proper company now that makes stuff and just barely turn a profit on purpose, I think. But their price is still way speculative compared to what their revenue is, and I think that's still on the promise of like self-driving fleet of
It could
fucking
be.
share cars.
I also
Yeah.
think they're like the superchargers are a huge moat. That was like, it's so
That's a
difficult to compete with that.
big brain idea, that shit.
That is such a freaking moat, man. But now they're starting to open it up, which I think is U.S. I think it's the U.S. government forcing that a little bit, but because they're
I think also in mainland Europe, I think they lost an anti-competition
oh, did they?
thing. I might have imagined that, but I think there was like an anti-competition thing not just in the US, but I think several regulators have been like, I'm not sure about that, lads.
I don't remember exactly what it was in the U.S., but I think it was something related to the $7,500 tax rebate exists in the U.S. still, but that's only for cars that are sourced in the United States, like built in the U.S. So Tesla is one of the very few ones, like Rivian and whatever else that are made here. But I thought part of that was based, and the breakout of what dollar amount car was always under, like it had to be below a certain amount or above a certain amount. I forget exactly what it was. But I think the opening of the supercharger was a negotiation point around changing that structure. So that means Tesla can sell a Model 3 with a $7,500 discount for less money and be much more competitive, but they have to open up the superchargers. So like, which is actually, I mean, good for the federal government. That's a good way to break down that mode too.
Yeah, smart.
Yeah.
So I guess like the other thing you kind of think, I kind of like one of my big things about why all this tech is interesting, particularly smart contracts, is the ability to build like arbitrary incentive systems. And like in those cases, like where you're building an economic system, maybe you do want a token, right? Because it's a little bit like going to a seaside amusement arcade. You want to play Time Crisis 2, you've got to get some tokens, right? They're not worth anything when you leave the amusement arcade. You can only play Time Crisis 2 with them, but you need them. Then they're just like a token, right? And you can build all sorts of incentive systems around that, but eventually you got to cash them back out to real money. And it's that kind of it's the point where there's not an expectation from users that you need to recycle the imaginary money back into actual exchangeable, workable currency. That is, I think, the problem with a lot of these systems, because people are just entering into a chain and sort of an imaginary economy with often imaginary utility and then holding, and that kind of speculative cycle occurring over and over and over and over and over again is actually like incredibly detrimental to not only the idea that those could be functioning economies, but also that they could build utility of their own. And so I'm almost like, one of the things I've been sort of interested in recently, and this is obviously, there are other ways of breaking this down, like Rama and Ben are talking in the chat about atomic swaps and like essentially more fungible assets via IBC. I've also obviously been reading a lot of stuff recently about CBDCs, and there's some really interesting models around digital cash, where specifically things are cash like, as in, they are semi-anonymous at the point of having them. They're issued to you and then they're recycled after use. So there's no account abstraction, again, for privacy reasons. And I think there's some quite interesting things about that model, which mean that the fungibility of the asset is completely derived by the fact that at some point, and this is also how you regulate it, by the way, because we're talking about regulated CBDCs, is that at some point you need to go to a money services business, as we call them. I assume they're called a similar thing in the States, or a bank, and you say, I have 5 imaginary internet pounds. Here you go. And they go, great. And they literally recycle them. They're gone from circulation. And that those unique IDs will never be seen again. That business can issue them because on their internal ledger, they know how many there are. And somewhere, all of those money services businesses have a ledger. They know how many coins is the max supply, but the number that are in supply obviously is not always the max, right? So they recycle them, they reissue them. But that kind of, it kind of leads you to an interesting situation where you go, okay, well, if you're going to take this regulated thing, right, and then go send it via IBC, what are you going to do? Well, your IBC client situation is probably going to be a recycler of some kind by the same measure, right? Because you've always going to have to reissue and recycle the tokens out of use. When they move out of use, they always have to be recycled. So you start looking at the situation where you can move a representation into a different ecosystem, but the way its fungibility works is totally different. And then you're like, is it even the same asset anymore?
Yeah.
And what happens if you bring it back out of that other ecosystem into the other one, and then it gets issued to you, but then you can't recycle it into fiat? There's just these, I think, like, as soon as you start thinking about, okay, at some point you need real money, like, and maybe all of this stuff
What?
we're doing, maybe all of this stuff we're doing is the equivalent of a vast network of seaside amusement arcades, and we're just validating different versions of Time Crisis. Maybe, you know, Juno's Time Crisis 2, the classic. Maybe I don't know, Stargazer's Time Crisis 3, pretty good, but some of the missions weren't as good as Time Crisis 2. I don't know what Time Crisis 4 is. Answers in the comments. The point is that we have this vast amusement arcade, right? And we have all these tokens to play all these different games. But at the moment, we don't want to play Time Crisis because apparently we're weird. We're an old lady. This actually might be discriminatory towards old people, but whatever. They voted Brexit. I don't care. I'm going to go play the 2-penny machine and try and win some 2 pennies. Although that doesn't make sense because that's already fiat currency. Okay, I'm going to go try and win a prize on one of those ticket machines where you get a load of tickets, and I want to turn those back into cash, but I can't. Yeah, it's weird. So I don't know. I feel like we're kind of in that situation, but there's no way of ever taking your money and leaving half the time, because all of those use cases, like, the important thing is the economic system, not the fucking currency you're doing it in. If it was all USDC, I think it would be fine. I think that's the thing maybe that Terra got right. The more I think about it, anniversary of the Terra collapse.
Yeah,
For the average,
right?
yeah, for the average user, maybe the stable coin is the fucking universe brain idea. Like, maybe that is the thing. That's the thing that ties it all together. Is the stable coin, is the CBDC, and you just enter into, for a very short period of time, to use a particular use case, you enter into the economic system of a chain to do the activity you want to do as a user, and then you exit straight back into a representation of fiat, whether that's then recycled, however the fungibility mechanism works, whether it works like digital cash, whether it works like something else. I don't know. I don't know. I'm just beginning to think that, like, every chain having its own token is maybe not even necessary. Like, or if it's necessary, it's only necessary in a very short-term way to do a really specific thing as a user. Or it's time boxed by the length of time of the thing. Because, you know, staking, liquid staking, it's like a bond, isn't it? It's like a bond, or it's like getting my point is, derivatives and things exist like that in the wider financial world.
They do.
But then you have a period of time, like an ISA is a good example, or a savings account where you can't withdraw straight away. But I guess even those are denoted in fiat, aren't they? They don't have like such a flexible value. So I don't know. It's really interesting because there's obviously something super compelling about the tech. I think the ability to program money is just so revolutionary. But there's just this. I think there's this increasing disconnect in my head between, like, the actual the payments, the fact that none of this shit works for payments.
Well, I mean, that's we were talking about that last week, right? That's we keep shuffling tokens around in these complex DeFi ways, but the utility of those has to be there at some point, right? Like, there has to be, to your point, like, whether it's payments or something similar to that, like, there has to be something that's beyond just shuffling A to B and back and forth and blah blah blah.
So, I mean, if you look at it from the perspective of the real world, like, companies don't have their own token, right? And they do just fine. Maybe we should be building systems where we actually do use like a common stable and then build the revenue models out from that. But I mean, that would affect the whole get rich on launch thing, right? With founder tokens, founder bags.
Well, and companies do have their own token, right? It's called like shares. But I don't know. I would push back against the idea that a lot of chains don't need their own tokens. I think there's an argument to be made that they don't, but I think that there's more argument to be made that they do. In my opinion, one of the coolest things, you know, crypto's good for is funding open source. And so if you are funding open source through tokens, like, there's kind of like two arbiters there, right? So you got, a currently working example, which would be like BAT, the basic attention token, right? You can pay open source contributors through BAT, but then you have to go through them as an arbiter, them being like the BAT protocol. Yeah, exactly. Ben Davis said tokens are just the way we all get rich and go to the beach. Yes, absolutely. That's right. Which is why all chains need one.
Uh-huh.
But funny. I mean, Noble doesn't have its own token, really. Like technically it does, but it's not issued. I don't know. Noble's kind of in a weird state anyway.
Does it have its own? Is it? Yeah. It's not USDC, is it? Like
no. There's a Noble.
No, they don't really have like a token. I think every validator just has like one token, and then there's no inflation.
It's just to create blocks, right? Is that really what it is?
Yeah, but then have an even set. But isn't Noble's basically probably
it's kind of like a share, isn't it? The Noble one, because it's like a share. It's almost like an NFT, because if you don't have the token, you can't be a validator. So implicitly, the token is like a stake in ownership. It's like proof of stake, and like a really, it's not distributed proof of stake or decentralized proof of stake or any of the Ds that can be in DPoS. It's almost like a pure.
I have no idea about Noble or how it works, but from the outside looking in, it looks a lot like they selected some partners that are probably going to be, I'm assuming, paid IRL outside of the crypto world, and that chain exists solely for the security of the USDC. So I'm pretty sure they tightly will control those fucking handful of tokens that are there, so that they can control who's providing security to that chain. Because Circle make fucking shitloads of money. They don't need like a token. They're already rich. They just need like a highly secured chain that they fully 100% control, right? They don't care about the token.
No, they want use, right? So they want to lower barriers of use. That's what they are, right? So this is a lowering the barrier of use, right? Like nobody wants to go through bridges and bullshit, right? So
I mean, to be fair to like USDC and Circle, like, I mean, I've had almost no luck using their services, and I think they're shit. But
caveat,
yeah, fuck them. But at least like there is a weird situation which their profit motive is pretty well aligned with providing a good that is actually pretty well needed. The question is whether or not they are actually backed in the way that they say they are, because there are just so many fucking asterisks around USDC. Like, there is no way I would have that on the company books for more than an hour or two. Absolute top end.
But the same was with USDT as well, and they sort of just kept all this shit quiet for a while. And man, everyone was calling the rug card on USDT like back in 2017 when they launched. Everyone was just fucking all over those poor bastards, and everyone was yelling at them about audits and all this type of stuff. And then when they finally released reports with them having non-cash assets, everyone was fucking pissed. And now they're turning like, I don't know if they were rolling the dice. They seemed like pretty solid investments to me. But now I think they posted a profit of like $1.4 trillion or something like that. Or billion dollars?
Probably
billion. It would be billion, not trillion.
Yeah, trillion's a lot. No, 1.4 billion, I think, is what they posted as a profit. So, now they're building a war chest. I think they're fine. Presumably USDC have the same strategy. When they launched those things back in like the day 15, 16, 17, wherever it was, I thought it was fucking genius. You're taking like everyone's money, you're not paying them any interest, and you're taking that money and investing it. Like there couldn't be, and like in large volumes. They could, and presumably those businesses didn't actually need that much startup capital, because once you create the system, then all you really need is investment bankers. So yeah, it's a winner of a idea, and I would happily have USDC and USDT on my book. I don't think they're anywhere near failure.
The baffling thing to me, right, about USDC is how I mean, I get systemic risk. Systemic risk and contagion are the actual answer to what I'm about to say. That's the reason why you say, Frey, you're a fucking idiot. Okay, amongst other things. But I also still kind of don't understand why a major government with a currency that is traded extensively on forex markets, dollar, euro, yen, pound, something like that, doesn't look at USDC and just go, fuck, man, we could literally spin up a fucking chain tomorrow and literally just tell a bunch of banks, get 4 or 5 banks that are big, that are the kind of banks that if they were looking like they were going to fail, the government would bail them out anyway, and just say to them, look, you guys have, because of how MMT works, like, you guys know what your credit line is in terms of the amount of currency you can issue, right? Take 5% of that liquidity for now. We'll ramp it up every year by 5%. Take 5% of that liquidity, and allow it, because again, the recycling model for digital cash is not that like with Squint, and it's not that different to how credit lines and extension work in terms of actually expanding the credit base of how much money is in an economy, right? So you could just say to them, look, issue 5% of your liquidity via credit as imaginary money, internet money, and it's out there in the world until it returns to you. And we'll count it as kind of out there and liquid until we see it come back in and get recycled or reissued or however that works. And then if that works, we'll increase it to we'll increase it to 10% next year. But you don't have to do that. You don't have to use all of that percentage. But that's the amount that we'll let you play with, and it would be fucking wildly profitable. Of course it would. Like, and also, like, I hate to point out the fucking obvious as well. Like from I guess like a purchasing power question, but like as somebody who lives in a country that's currency got completely fucked by bad decisions by old people and politicians a few years ago, if you want your currency to become more in demand, a really fucking great way would be to increase its utility by embracing, like, a massive emerging market and just start dipping your feet into it over maybe a 5-year period and just like give it a bit of liquidity, see what happens, give it a bit more liquidity. You've got this like network of issuing credit already. Like, that's exactly how modern financial systems work. Like, you're already issuing imaginary money. This is just a different kind of imaginary money. That's the thing I kind of don't understand. You look at how wildly like profitable on paper, at least, something like Circle is, and I would be looking at that as a central bank and going, fuck, man, this could really help our balance of payments if we like, or our purchasing power of our currency. Less of an issue for the euro because they obviously have huge problems with the different disparity of the economies within the eurozone. So like maybe they just don't need any more fucking headaches. And I appreciate the ECB might just be like, fuck no, fine. But like the UK is in a fucking position where we need degen options on the table fucking quick. So it's no surprise that the Bank of England is like doing feasibility studies on this stuff. But I mean, like, Circle's done the feasibility study for them, which is Circle isn't even backed and people trust it. It's not even backed. Like, we all know it's not backed. It's not really. They say they're backed.
Well, some part of it is backed.
Some part of it is backed, but we all know it's not fucking
back-ish.
It's not backed by a government with a fucking aircraft carrier.
No,
the point
it is not.
You're backed by an aircraft carrier. Worst case scenario,
or an old man with a gold crown.
Worst case scenario, you melt down the crown jewels, you pay your debts.
Right.
Or you just go invade Finland or something. That worked really well for the Soviets, I hear. Actually, of course you wouldn't invade Finland. That's a really bad idea. You always lose a winter war in Finland. You invade Norway because they've got oil and the majority of their population centers are on the coast.
Smart.
Although they would flee into the interior and then wage a guerrilla war, and then you'd be back to square one. NATO's not good at guerrilla warfare, or counterinsurgency, I think, is the conclusion there. So my money would be on the Norwegians.
What kind of diatribe did you just go on?
It was like 22 minutes. I'm gonna have to cut that down to like 45 seconds.
You started monologuing. You started to become syndrome from The Incredibles.
We gotta go longer tonight because I gotta cut out 20 minutes.
Yeah, in the potty, there's just gonna be like this director's cut, and it'll be usurper just stepping in and go, let me just fucking like
Hey, don't
summarize
forget
the
that you
following
can
45
stake with
minutes
Rhino
into
on the
10
following
seconds.
networks.
I'd play a thing, but I know we get YouTube banned for it, so I can't do it.
We haven't played anything this epi that
Switch.
will like make your life difficult in the cut room.
Maybe we need to wake up our audience. Oh, Schultze, tell us what was going on with a new berry. There's a new berry, right?
Yeah, but I think it's still on the hush hush. So we'll have to go with the next week.
Oh, is it? I thought there was a GitHub on
Wasn't
it.
it on Twitter?
It was on Twitter.
Oh,
maybe it
no,
wasn't
I
on
know what you're
Twitter.
talking about. This is hush hush.
No, it's not. It's
Is
on
it?
the.
No.
It is not hush hush.
It's fine. It's fine. Everything's fine. Usurper.
Oh, you're full of shit because
sometimes Usurper gets up in a hurry from his chair when he's had a couple of drinks. He gets a little bit of a head rush, and he's just like,
I just saw it on a public forum. I was just
I've got
clicking
ideas.
around like an asshole.
Yeah, they've mentioned the name of it, but they've only released binaries for fixes as far as I've seen. You don't actually see source code for what the issue is.
I don't give a shit about that. Just tell us what. We're not going through source code on this thing.
Just tell us the details of the problem, man.
How do I exploit it? And can I make any money?
How can I make some money?
It's called Huckleberry. That's the new
Who
one.
picked that? Who's responsible for that?
Yeah, I
What
don't
is with
know.
the
Is that
berries,
informal?
man? For fuck's sake.
Ben, you need to join in and tell us.
Who picks that shit? That's awful.
I don't know about these berries. I'm kind of sick of
That's super
berries. They're a lot of work.
We should do like they should do after the nuts, like they should do what Harlan Pepper did. Macadamia nut, cashew nut.
Imagine if the people
Hazelnut.
who were having these exploits disclosed to them or discovering these
Pine
exploits
nut.
were actually assholes. We'd all be broke now.
Pistachio nut.
Well, I think a lot of us already are broke. So
What if just
More
one
broke?
of these teams that like they're working with to patch, we're like, oh, wait a minute, I see what I can do with this.
I mean, that's kind of what happened. But
Yeah, the honest answer is that a lot of the bugs are hard to exploit, so people can't exploit them. The Cosmos SDK is inherently complex, and like the number of people that have the knowledge to exploit these things in the time frame available is relatively small. So the ones that you see out in the wild are usually chain halts because that's like the easiest way to lock up the SDK. But obviously funds are safe anyway. And then on a couple of occasions where somebody has successfully exploited, the chain's usually patched itself to roll back that change in the ledger.
Chain just became sentient, patched itself.
Well, no, but like chains have literally stopped and corrected like particular smart
Airdrops.
contract exploits and stuff. Yeah, like that's literally happened. People have just changed the ledger to say the attacker doesn't have the funds anymore. That definitely happened, didn't it? Was it Evmos or Osmosis? That was a.
I think it was Osmosis, right?
That's why Secret 2 went from Secret 2 to Secret 3. The Secret Swap was hacked, and the hackers pulled all the liquidity out of Secret Finance, and they couldn't figure out how to bridge it back to ETH. So the chain was able to be shut down. The chain was able to be shut down before they could bridge out.
But
I
got actual USDC on Juno, but it's bridged through Stargaze. I don't know how to get this shit out of here. I'm 4 IBCs away. What do I do? Fuck this chain.
The tangled web of spaghetti IBC.
They got spaghetti IBC. Maybe that's the security we need. Just spaghetti IBC all this shit away. I gotta go through what? I don't understand this shit. That's
Bitcoin
hilarious.
rolled back. What?
So we can't talk about Huckleberry. That's the only piece of Cosmos thing we talked about this whole freaking podcast. Can't talk about it.
Yeah, I can't talk about it. I think there's even only 1 or 2 chains that have released an update for it. So
all I heard was that it was minor, and it will be patched. That's all I
So
heard.
it's minor for most chains. Yes. If we were a year down the line, it would probably not be minor, and I think the bed would have been shat. But as it is,
What would time have to do with it?
What's that?
What does time have to do with it?
I'm not going to say because it would probably actually reveal the exploit.
That's interesting.
Well, what's interesting too about
All the
this,
exploits are based on time.
Are they? Is that? Put that in the drill tree.
It's almost like state is the problem.
Yeah,
Said the
time is
functional
always the
program.
problem because fucking
Eh?
when it finds its way into the state machine, everyone gets different hashes, don't they? Time goes by differently on different machines.
Well, any source of non-determinism.
Mm.
God,
Yeah.
I already don't
So
care.
I have a fun story that's like not Huckleberry related, but
Are there fun stories that are Huckleberry related?
yeah.
actually, you know what? I can throw in a fun story, Huckleberry related.
All right.
My
Fun
wedding
story?
cake.
You fucking fuck my story. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Hold
your
on.
story's next.
I need to
Your story's next.
because you asked a question, you thought it was rhetorical, and it's not because I can answer it.
It wasn't a question, it was a fucking statement. It was a segue.
With a
And
period.
I am throwing it right under the bus so that I can say what I want to say.
I like it.
My wedding cake is going to be almond like caking and then huckleberry cream on the inside.
Oh, nice.
That's the
Wow.
fun bit.
Wait,
Now
what's
you can tell your
Huckleberry
story.
Cream?
Cosmos all
What's
the way through.
Huckleberry Cream?
It's I don't know, huckleberries and it's got like a buttercream mix.
Wait, what the fuck? Huckleberry is a real thing? Like, is a berry?
Yeah,
think I made
it's
that
like,
up.
it's like a blackberry, but
Yeah.
not.
But not.
So is
I
Dragonberry.
thought Huckleberry was just Huckleberry Finn, which is the guy, from the
No, you silly Sally. So whenever in Tombstone, whenever
We're silly Sally. Christ.
Philly Fally.
yeah, no, huckleberry is a real thing. It's very good. I like them a lot.
All
Link
right.
in the
So
show notes. All right, I guess
that
you have a story?
brings up a bunch of questions. Like, aren't you already married? How come you get a late fucking wedding cake?
Well, yeah, I mean, so yeah, I am already married, because we eloped, but we eloped with like her side of the family. So like we did have a kind of like we went to the park and signed the papers, and we're like, all right, we're married, and now we're
Need
doing
to
my
roll
side
up.
of the family, and we're gonna have also some of her family, so we're gonna do a little more for
Do
this.
they know? Everybody knows.
Everybody knows.
Okay.
Yeah.
So everybody knows this is
Everyone
this is-
thinks
okay.
it's like this is the real thing.
Does anybody think they're showing up to an actual wedding, or they? I mean, it's a wedding. I don't. That sounded bad. But do they think like you are not married? Or is everybody showing up knows that you're married?
Everybody knows we're married. Yeah,
Okay,
for sure.
right.
Well, and it's also like an excuse to get house stuff done because we're just gonna have it in our backyard. So like I got my
cool.
deck that needs rebuilt, and so instead of putting money towards I don't know a venue or whatever, we're just gonna have a backyard, and then I'm gonna rebuild my deck with said difference.
You should have your wedding at your house and then just invite free labor over.
Oh, that's what's happening. Yes, that's exactly what's happening.
It's a lot of work to have a wedding at your house.
So
But it's not going to be a
apparently-
full
That's
wedding.
pretty-
It's just going to be like a
Huckleberry
vow ceremony,
and
really.
labor.
So-
So working bee.
apparently
Deck's a deck, though.
Huckleberry is a bilberry. Though I can't remember I've ever eaten a bilberry. But there is some. It has some dialect names in English, which I guess is when people went over to America. It was called a hurtleberry, which presumably is how huckleberry
A what?
comes out of
Say
it,
it one more time.
or a whortleberry.
Huh.
Whortleberry with a W.
Hattleberry?
Whortleberry.
The phrase is like deep in research now, not knowing what a huckleberry was.
I was deeply
fucking
disturbed by no. I mean, like, I'm not great at plants and whatnot. I'm okay at trees sometimes. Like I get really confused by what's a lime tree and what's a beech tree, and that.
Put that on your Twitter profile. I'm not great at plant, but I'm pretty good at trees.
I'm pretty good at trees. Like, yeah, but then like things like a lot of trees, like classic English hedgerow trees, are really like quite obvious a lot of the time what they are. I guess the problem is like Americans, you've got so many good trees. Like you do have like quite a lot of unspoiled nature, whereas like in the UK, you're like, well, loads of things are fucked. Bird population's fucked, but lots of
No,
ancient oaks.
There's a lot
Lots
of
ancient oaks.
there's a lot of fucked here too, because we're getting a lot of like beetles and shit from Asia, which I'm sure you guys are as well. But we get a lot of lanternflies and
Feral hogs.
no, well, not around us, but yeah, they're around.
That's
Good
like
eating.
down south, isn't it?
That's good eating. And west, yeah.
Good eating with the feral
Good
hog.
eating.
We have a problem where we have too few feral hogs generally in Europe.
I don't think that's a problem.
We have a problem of too few feral wolves, in my opinion. You
Oh,
know what?
yeah,
No, I
we have-
retract that. It's not an opinion; it's fact.
We have too few feral wolves as well, but you need the wolves and the hogs because the basically a lot of tree saplings take root because they take root where hogs, well, not hogs, you see, wild boar, or depending on your country, they were actually different well, it doesn't matter, but like they disturb the
Doesn't
soil,
matter.
which allows the tree saplings to actually take root, and then large herbivores like big cows, like or predecessors of the modern cow, like tread the saplings or the seeds into the ground, and then they poo, obviously, because they're big herbivores, and then the poo fertilizes the trees, and that's how you end up with like ancient woodland, basically, and that's why like yeah, you just don't get a lot of that kind of old, that regrowth into what would be like really a healthy kind of woodland ecosystem without the combination of hogs and large herbivores. But it's also how you can get like quite, I mean, it's obviously very low intensity farming, but it's how you can also get like quite sustainable beef and stuff like that. It's by combining hogs. I keep saying feral hogs now, I just want to say feral hogs, but like I gather anyway that's how you would do it. I think I think it's like in the Netherlands and stuff, they've done a lot of studies on this sort of stuff.
Well, similarly, like a lot of people don't appreciate how destructive a lot of herbivores are. Like if you go and kind of follow like a herd of elk, man, they annihilate everything that they come past. Entire hillsides will just be destroyed. So like you'll see a lot of environmentalists being like, "Oh, we got to save the elks and the deers." Meanwhile, they're not understanding that like
We need predators
there's
for them too.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, like they're like the argument is that we don't need wolves because we need to protect the deers and the elk, but they're so destructive that like having a balance or a check would help the situation. And hunters, long story, but there aren't enough hunters, so they're not able to make that difference.
Yeah, well, we have that here. We have so many deer in deer parks in the UK, and then they literally would die in winter. So every year there's a deer cull because otherwise their populations are too big to survive. So they just get killed, and it's like one of the most, as a result, it's really sustainable meat if you do want to eat meat. You just go after a deer cull, and you're like, hey, venison, it's relatively cheap, it's organic, and they literally would die anyway. But the problem is that the deer population is actually too big anyway. So, yeah. Anyway, fun with deer.
I think we've covered the gamut.
Cosmos Validator podcast. Welcome to Game of Nodes.
Yeah, right. What the
I think
fuck?
Noel had a story he wanted to tell, and he's been looking very impatient up in the corner.
I thought you told it.
Fucking the time passed.
Let me tell you a story about like aversion.
Didn't Penumbra or Numbra didn't they have their like stable testnet now or something instead of like doing a new testnet every week? I saw an announcement about Numbra.
I think it came out today, and I think this
right.
was their official launch of their private DEX, because that's what Penumbra is, right? It's effectively a private DEX for the start. And I think today was the start of the
Shielded swaps now execute against the first complete version of Numbra DEX engine. Is it Penumbra or Numbra?
Penumbra.
Penumbra?
Yeah, Penumbra, because it's PEN, not PN.
Yeah, so it looks like they're firing on all cylinders. I mean, it could have been a silent P for fuck's sake.
Well, no,
PN,
but
not
typically
PN.
it's only a silent P. If it's P, then immediately followed by N. If there's a vowel in between, then you pronounce the vowel.
But there isn't it PN?
I didn't major in like
It's
fucking
pen.
English.
It's PEN umbra.
Oh, it is PEN. Oh, okay, yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, so it's penumbra.
Okay, so if there's no E, then we're talking silent P situation.
Well, also
Like
because
pneumatic.
they're optical phenomenon, aren't they? So there's umbra and penumbra. So you can infer that pen is I actually don't know this, but I would strongly guess that pen is a Latin modifier to describe the difference between umbra and penumbra, like the bit around, and therefore pen will be pronounced the Latin way, which would be hard letters because it's like just like Latin. Generally, Latin things like there's not a hard and fast rule. It's been a long time since I did Latin at school, but like they generally like very hard sounds, aren't they? So if you're going to pronounce it like Caesar, like we always say Caesar, but it's actually Kaiser, isn't it? is how it would be pronounced in Latin. So if you see pen, you're like, it's probably pen rather than like any softer way of putting it. Hey, the
or like quasar.
Quasar. It's not quasar, probably. Although would quasar be Greek? I don't know. Answers in the comments. I don't.
Like and subscribe for the answer next week.
We'll look up word histories. What's that? I always get mixed up between the one that's bugs and the one that's word history. Etymology.
Yeah, etymology. That's word history.
Oh, is it? Oh shit!
Of course, you would know that.
Fuck. All right,
etymology is cool. All right.
So on our agenda for this week, we are 90 or 60, 80 something minutes in. We've not talked about Huckleberry. We've not talked about anything else. We have talked about deer population. We've ignored null stories. We've shit on the cosmos mostly. Is there anything else? Did we miss anything? Etymology is bugged. That's what I thought. Thanks, Funky. Anything else to add?
Well, we ranked the Tool albums as well. That was
that's true.
So
I think that was pre-show. We're talking about Tool pre-show.
Another thing worth bearing in mind is that some people have taken MIDI transcriptions of Tool and run them through the N64 sound engine.
Oh yeah, we should I'll put a couple of those in the show notes,
which are really good. So you can go find your favorite Tool album and listen to it in N64 mode. I'm going to put it out there and say that I think Lateralis reveals its true genius as the best Tool album through its N64 version, and I cannot get enough.
It was.
I can't get enough of the parabola.
10,000 Days on that little thing was really good too, though.
Yeah, I feel like one of the writing two, or maybe the pot was pretty decent. Also, the pot. If you've never seen, have you ever seen the John Q cover version, the drummer?
No.
Where he's just like a geologist or something, but he uploads really occasional drum covers to YouTube, like once a year or something, for songs that he really wants to learn. And there's a great video a few years ago where he was just like, the pot is pretty much Tool's hardest song in my book. I'm going to try and learn it. And he learns it and films it.
Is it really?
There's a couple of bits of very complicated compound time, is my understanding, like in that bit in the middle. And so just getting the timing nailed is just super hard. And also all of the fact it is also very technical. Yeah. But the combination of all the polyrhythms. And there's
a reason why he's called the octopus. That's all I'm saying.
I like Carrie.
There's basically a moment where the polyrhythms largely end and you're on the home straight of the song. It's just after the breakdown. And this video is amazing because, like, obviously you don't know watching the video. Like, I happened to have watched the making of thing before I watched the video, so I knew it'd taken him like 100 hours or whatever to learn this, and he'd done like 40 takes of it, or some like it was, and he was like, "This is the last take. I can't do this anymore." And he gets to the point where it's like there's the one more bit of the breakdown to do, and then you're on the home straight. If you get through that, you're going to get through the rest of the song, and it looks like he's about to fuck it. And then he just gets back control, pushes on through the breakdown bit, and you see his face the second he realizes he's done it. And then there's a moment where you have, like, I think it's like literally 2 to 3 beats rest or something. It's when the do 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 bah, and then there's 1 2 3 4 that rhythm. It's really similar to the break in Parabola, actually, which I hum there, and it's not the same riff, but it is a similar break figure. Yeah. And he just goes for it. He YOLOs and fucking flips his drumsticks. Like, and you're just like, because you're just like, he's gonna fuck it up, but that obviously doesn't. It's just amazing. But it's just like one of the most pure moments of enjoyment I've seen from any musician ever, and it's worth watching that video just for the moment where he realizes he's done it. And then he decides to gamble and throws his drumstick anyway. And then he's through it, and he does actually finish it, and you're like, fucking hell, man, I would not have thrown that drumstick.
I wouldn't have done it.
Sounds like a true DJ, and he should probably be a validator.
Yeah, Jimmy Smallballs wouldn't throw the drumstick.
That's correct. See, now that would have been the perfect time.
What, just after you mentioned Jimmy Smallballs?
Yeah. I mean, we always kind of miss the right time to really rug.
Yeah, I mean, except that episode, like the other day, where it was